Okay, hi guys, welcome to Betterment. I'm going to talk a little bit about how we use plugins in-house at a company like Betterment. Has anyone here heard of us? Okay, a couple of people, that's good. So what we do is we are a software product that allows people to invest their money easily. So basically investing your money kind of sucks. It's kind of hard. A lot of people don't know enough about it to do really well. So what we try to do is use software and technology to make it easier for average people to invest their money. So we have a team of investment professionals that decide on a portfolio of things that give you good performance for pretty low risk, and we manage that for you. And basically you sign up for an account, you can deposit money, we support IRAs, so you can roll over 401ks, we do retirement plans, you can do regular deposits every month, and you can just very easily invest your money, and you don't have to worry about all the management and all the things that go along with it. So some of the picky things with investing, like reinvesting dividends and rebalancing your portfolio to make sure you're staying at the same risk level, we take care of all of that automatically. So another good thing about it is that because it's all software-based, you're not relying on human emotion and human panicking and all of that, which can kind of get you in trouble in the stock market. So that's a little bit about Betterment. We launched in 2010. So we are in this category called robo-advisor, which you may or may not have heard. But we were the first. We have almost 100,000 customers, and we have almost $2.5 billion under management, which is, we're pretty much tied for the lead in this category. We have a 100-person team. We are hiring, so check out our page at betterment.com/careers and see what we're looking for. And so we do use WordPress for our, what we call our brochure experience, so everything that you see before you become a customer. And why do we do that? The main reason is content. A big part of our marketing is using content that we write. We have a content team in-house with writers that we publish on our site through WordPress, and we syndicate it on Huffington Post and Wired and a lot of major publications. We have 70 pages, which compose our main salesy marketing site. We have over 400 posts, 250 landing pages. We have 2 million page views a month. So the interesting thing is that our product is actually not WordPress at all. It's a backbone application built on a layer of Java and Ruby APIs. So it's a little bit interesting trying to combine the experience between our WordPress site and our application. So once you become a customer, when you log in, you are all in our backbone application. So this is a little bit about what it looks like. So this is kind of a layout of what our architecture looks like. So we have our WordPress site and our brochure site for marketing. Landing pages have their own site and our multi-site setup. And we have one plugin that covers a lot of functionality that's shared between them. And it lets us hit all of our APIs, our private APIs. And then the customer experience in the application then also hits those APIs directly. So why do we use a plugin for this? The first thing is that it allows us to reuse a lot of code. So for example, this is something we use all the time. Are we in production? What's the URL of our application? There's tons of things like that that are just helpers, and we don't need to rebuild these every time we launch a new site on our multi-site, every time we come up with a new type of landing page. We just don't need to bother with that. So the second thing is some shared functionality we want to get every time we load up our site. So for example, this is a mixed panel graph. We use mixed panel for analytics. So analytics is one of those things that we always want to have running on our sites. We always want to track all the things to measure conversions and performance and things. So by having all the code reside in a plugin, we can just start up a new site and it's all ready to go. The third thing we can do is set up private API calls. So one thing that we do a lot heavily is split testing. A lot of the conversion funnels on our site are split tested, so we come up with a couple of options. We design them, and then we pit them against each other. And the way we do that is we have built an in-house API to both randomly dole out variations to keep track of who's gotten what variations, so you always get a consistent experience, and to measure the outcome and conversions from that. So that's an in-house private API, but because we're using a plugin, it allows us to connect to our application, and any of the sites that we run it on, we can use the split testing. And the last thing is that it gives us a lot of control. We are very performance-oriented here. We do a lot of maintaining of the plugins that we do use, and we do a lot of pruning of extraneous things. We combine a lot of things to save on requests, so every little bit helps improve our conversions. And so this gives us more control to build something in-house rather than rely on a plugin to do it. Because plugins are awesome and they're great, but some that are poorly made or poorly maintained can sometimes cost you a lot in terms of performance. So making a lot of network requests, loading a lot of third-party assets, and those are all things that we try not to do as much as possible. And it also lets us review and keep track of our code base really well. Because we are a financial product, there's a lot of trust involved. So we want to make sure we keep track of everything and we don't cause anything that might risk our customer data or our trustability in the market. So there are a couple of downsides to doing a custom plugin, if you're thinking about this, just to be aware of. It does create a couple of additional requests. So far, we haven't figured out a way to completely combine all of the JavaScript assets, the CSS assets, because there's different folder structures for plugins and themes. So you might have a couple of additional requests. Second is if you're using a WordPress host, like WP Engine or any of the other third-party hosts that are out there to automatically manage the WordPress side of things, some of them don't allow custom plugins, and some of them have very strict rules around what your custom plugins can do. And the last thing is it's a little bit complex. We have a typical onboarding process with any new engineers on our team where we introduce them a little bit to our architecture, what's in a theme, what's in a plugin, and where to find all the things. And even if I've been working on the site for 4 years and I still sometimes can't remember where things are. So it just adds a little bit of complexity. So as long as you document your code well and pay attention to that and try and minimize it as much as possible, I think that you can mitigate that. So that's it, just quick. So if anyone has any questions. Yeah.
Do you open source anything, or is it all proprietary?
So the question is anything open sourced? A lot of these things deal with our private APIs, so we haven't open sourced them. There are a couple things that we've built, like the wrapper on top of our private split testing API. We'd like to open source that, but it's just something that's in progress. Anything else? Yeah.
How do you manage any dependencies that your plugin has? So let's say you have a library that you need to do user agent detection.
Yeah, so the question is, how do we manage dependencies? We evaluate and we keep track of dependencies all within the project. So like if we need jQuery, we will load jQuery. If we need something that tracks user agent, we will find a compatible piece of code, and we'll typically build it into the plugin rather than like pull it in another third-party library, just so we can concatenate everything down and minify everything and save on requests.
Well, what about on the PHP side, right? So I understand JavaScript, like if you're using a PHP library across multiple plugins, use something like Composer or something else, or what's your approach?
We typically haven't used any of those. We've built a lot of the things in-house, and we don't do anything super crazy with the content management system side. We do a lot with like custom templates and things like that, but we haven't really required any PHP libraries. Yeah.
So you mentioned reuse of things.
Mhm.
How, but you also mentioned that you've been on the site for 4 years. Are you launching multiple sites? And when do you plan to begin to reuse these across different installations? I'm kind of curious about.
So it kind of depends on what, so a little bit of history. We've done this site in WordPress, I think, redesigned completely 4 times. I've custom written the theme twice. I wrote probably 50% of the plugin code. And the things that we share are all very generic things, like those kinds of helpers and like the things that we're always going to need, like analytics and split testing and things like that. Those custom things that are very related to what the display is, we tend to keep those in the theme so that when we rethink those, they're all in one place. The things in the theme are very standard functions that can exist no matter what the skin on top of them looks like. Yeah?
Do you have like a rule of thumb as to when not to use a public plugin?
Do we have a rule of thumb of when not to use a plugin? When we're looking at adding a new functionality for the site, for example, we added the ability for people to subscribe to our newsletter and read our blog posts via email. Seems a pretty basic functionality, but we actually reviewed a lot of the options out there, and we determined that they either didn't give us the control that we needed. We need everything very customized. Everything really needs to blend into a seamless experience. And they didn't give us a lot of the options we needed. So we decided to write that in-house. On the other hand, we have, for example, our landing pages. We have a template set up so that our acquisition team can go in, they can add a new landing page. They can, for any affiliate marketer that we have, they can set up a landing page, set up the code for their referral bonuses, and things like that. We use the Advanced Custom Fields plugin for that because it's just fantastic at what it does. It would take us a really long time to write something as good, and we've reviewed the code of it, and we found it's really clean and really well done. It's well maintained. They update it regularly. Those are all things that go into the decision of whether to use a plugin or whether to write something of our own. Yeah?
Do you store your plugins in their own source code repository, and if so, how do you pull them into the theme or the site?
The way we do our whole brochure site is we have one multi-site install, and it's all in one repository. We have a GitHub repository that's got, the theme for the marketing site, the theme for landing pages, the plugin. It's all in one repository. It's easier for us to manage like that because it's always going to be pieces of the whole. Okay. If anyone has any questions, feel free to shoot me an email or get me on Twitter. And thanks for coming.